The Isiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. Well, there are new reports out there indicating there is an increase in hate crimes against Asian Americans. Now, many of those reports suggest former President Donald Trump's administration is to blame for terms like China flu. Now, those reports also further go to suggest that many African Americans, blacks, are targeting Asians. So we brought together a roundtable to discuss it throughout the show tonight. Let's take a look. And our panel joins us now here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about this ABC News Nightline report that indicated that blacks are being racist towards Asians in some parts of the country. I initially saw this report on Willie D's page. Willie D, when you saw this report, you called it Spinning the Narrative by ABC News. Your thoughts on what they were trying, what kind of message they were trying to send to the country with this report?
Absolutely. First off, straight out the gate, I want to salute all of the Asian people that stood on the front lines with us during the protest in 2020. To the ones that was on the Nightline special, they're cowards because they know damn well black people are not the primary attackers of them. All of this stuff that's going on right now, this is primarily from white people, not black people. So I don't know what the hell they was trying to do, but they once again figured out a way to blame it on the black man, blame it on the black woman, make black people the scapegoat. Hell, in fact, they even make us a scapegoat. They've been making us a scapegoat, the scape dog, the scape hog, the scape monkey, the scape every damn thing. Like, we the scape everything, So, they got an agenda, and the agenda is always to try to figure out a way to divide people. It's not about us being a harmonious type of a society. It's really about divide and conquer, and I think that's what they were trying to do.
Now, Mr. Win Lee, you are based here in Houston. You were one of those people that Willie D was saluting because you stood on the front lines. You created a billboard in the Asian community supporting Black Lives Matter, supporting that movement during the death of George Floyd, but you paid for it in your own community.
Yes, thank you for having me. I did, unfortunately, but the numbers the folks who were against it were way fewer than the support and the love that I received. But as far as going back to what's happening here, yeah, we cannot fight racism with racism, right? The only way we can overcome this is unity and solidarity. So for me being a Vietnamese immigrant, I am here because of the blood, sweat, and tears of the Black community, through the history of the Black community. And so that's why I am here as an American. And what's happening in the other areas, you cannot blame one community for it. And like Willie D said, there's no way that I will allow anybody to divide the communities just from this report that you mentioned. So,
right. And let's bring Maggie Noel in. Maggie, you see it from both sides, being biracial. When you hear that there has been accusations or allegations of blacks being racist towards Asians, your thoughts on that, and have you seen that?
Personally, I've only seen the activity from social media. Me personally, I have not seen it with my own eyes or in my own personal life. But I do, in a sense, agree with Willie D. I do feel like there's a bigger agenda here, and that that whole report, in a sense, was kind of a distraction. I think a lot of, and historically, there may have been strife between the two communities. However, I think with the rise of the physical abuse, verbal abuse, I personally think that it's come from of course, our former president and the fact that he tried to blame the coronavirus on China, or that it was a Chinese virus. And so, of course, with that past administration, I feel like the racism has been a lot more outwardly. And I think that that kind of gave people a sense of it's okay to attack, you know, this community based on their race and feeling like they brought the coronavirus or this pandemic upon us. And I think that that was really just a distraction for the bigger picture. I think as a minority group, we, like he said, Mr. Nguyen said, that we can fight this with solidarity and with unity versus trying to put us and pin us against each other.
Candy, let's bring you into this conversation. Have you seen any instances where Blacks have been racist towards Asians here in this community on social media? Is this a real problem or a red herring?
I haven't personally, witnessed any of that myself. I think it's just so much on the internet. It's just so much variety of random things. And I think I've seen white person, I've seen a Black person, I've seen even Asians on Asians. I've seen just everything. But with COVID, and I agree with what Maggie said, with Trump having to say, oh, it's a Chinese virus. And me being born in Taiwan, but I'm Chinese, people are looking at me like scared if I cough. And I actually made a joke about it on my Facebook because I went to the store and then I was holding my breath, just so scared to cough because I don't want people around me to say, right, oh my God, this Chinese girl who's tall and she's coming closer, she's coughing. But when I have a cough, it's a cough. So it's scaring people around me, and it's unfair that we're going through that, but it's not new. Asians, Blacks, Hispanics, Indians. I mean, look what happened in September 11th. Everybody was staying away from Indian people. I think all races, we've all been targeted sometime in our lives. Mm-hmm. But these situations happening like the coronavirus, and then with Trump saying what he said, it's really emphasizing it even more.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here on The Factor Uncensored. When we come back, we're going to hear from Jasmine Terry, who has a different take in her own experiences. We'll be back with more Factor in just a moment. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We saw a recent ABC News report that indicated that Asian Americans were being attacked by Blacks, physically, verbally, that there was a Black attack on race, on Asians. So joining us now to talk about it is our panel. And we have with us now Jasmine Terry. Jasmine, what has been your experience dealing with the Asian community?
Well, just to piggyback on what everyone said, my experience has been a little bit different. I actually had an interracial relationship with an Asian man, Vietnamese, for about 4 to 5 years. My experience is I witnessed racism, right, in a relationship, culturally, definitely a different experience, unbelievable experience, actually, that I had.
Tell us what you witnessed, what you experienced. Give us some examples.
So my experience regarding race, regarding an Asian American and a Black woman should not date, culturally, it was very insensitive. And when it was positive conversations, it was more so, I felt like it was hybriding children, right? Oh my God, we'll have some big children, you know what I mean? Because of course his family is a little bit smaller as far as size, but it was more so only the conversations that were positive were, oh my God, you're having big babies, or you know what I mean? These athletes type of conversation, which really was a turnoff for me. That's just the relationship part. The racism, even in the Black community, you witness, a lot of the Asian, I think honestly we need to have open dialogue and have these conversations on both sides, and from the businesses, right, that are in the Black communities, from real estate, the properties, the slumlords, from the business as far as restaurants, you know what I mean, how Black people are treating their communities with Asians. You know what I mean, from the Asian community. Now, granted, they're very, I have great relationships. My friends are from all over, but those are open dialogues that we need to have conversations about. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it's just targeting. There's racism on both ends. Do I believe that my people could be racist? Absolutely. And the Asians also. I see how they handle my people in the Black community. You make money off of us. You profit from us. And yet they treat us like crap. you know, honestly. So my perspective has been a little bit different. I'm still open visiting Beijing. I've been in Tianjin as well, on the business aspect of looking between the business lines between Africa and China, how they treat the Black American, their thoughts of the Black American. I actually sat in a meeting. I joined the African to China Business Council, and to hear the conversations, the ideas of Americans in general, right? And how they didn't want to do business with us, right? And I didn't speak as much because I didn't want them to know I was Black American. I kind of just wanted to tune in and listen.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience
really
has been
quick,
a little bit
Jasmine, let's bring in Willie D. When you hear all of that, Willie D, are you surprised?
Absolutely not. I mean, all you got to do is a quick Google search on the internet, and bam, you're gonna see a lot more videos of Asians attacking Black folks than you're gonna see Black folks attacking Asians. And here's the thing, like for ABC News Nightline to put out a report the way that they did, a slanderous report against the entire Black race, I mean, they need to be punished, because there is no way Black people could be against Asian people when we are the primary supporters of their businesses. We support their shops, we support their restaurants, we support their textile industry, we support everything, even the merch, all of the merch, the clothes, everything. We support everything, all of their businesses. So they can't possibly say that Black people are anti-Asian. That's impossible. Man, there is nothing worse than a journalist with an agenda.
We're going to take a quick break here, Willie D, and come back with more of this conversation in just a moment on the divide right now that we're hearing from some news organizations between the African-American community and the Asians. We'll be back with more Factor in just a moment. And welcome back to the Factor Uncensored. We are talking about the divide, according to one news report, between the Black community and the Asian community. Willie D, you were talking about making a point before we went to the break about African Americans supporting Asian businesses.
Absolutely. We support Asian businesses from day one. I mean, we are the ones who put money in their pockets more than anybody. You know, you go into any Asian business, there's more Black people in their businesses patronizing the business than it is Asian people. That's a fact. So, you know, for those people that was on that, the Asian people that participated in that special, they should be ashamed. And the Asian people who didn't participate should all, you know what? They should attack those Asians. The Asian people should go in and attack the Asians that was on that special.
We don't want to condone any violence here on the Factor Uncensored.
They betrayed the Asian community. They messing with y'all money, man. They messing with y'all money.
Well, let's hear from Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, when you hear that the Black community has been longtime supporters of the Asian community, and we just don't see the facts when we're talking about Blacks attacking Asians.
Well, personally, for me, my family, my mom raised us because of the Black community. And what I mean by that is I came over in '79 and we had a store off of Clinton Drive, if you know where that is, right? And then we served, our convenience store served a very underserved Black community. And then, so my mom always taught us that, hey, don't let a few criminals affect your view of the entire community. She taught us, the four of us, where because of the Black community, they gave our family an opportunity to make a living. And that is why she was able to raise the four of us. And that's always stayed with me, right? So again, what I said earlier about where I am today as an American, the groundwork was laid by the Black community, the blood, sweat, and tears of the Black community. So I acknowledge on the internet, I haven't experienced it myself here in Houston, but the attacks and all that with the elderlies. But it wasn't just only the Black attackers, it was across the board. But for me personally, I would not allow a handful of criminals for me to basically hate an entire community. I mean, you know, for me, a few months ago, last year, when I was the one who put up the Black Lives Matter billboard in support of the black community. So again, the only way we can overcome this is to come together, solidarity and unity. And you know what? The younger generation, they're more progressive, they're more open, and they're more inclusive. So that's what's encouraging for me.
Maggie, when you hear Mr. Lee talk about solidarity, are we close when we talk about solidarity between the African American and Asian community, or do you see there should be more work done?
There's definitely room for improvement, and always room to come closer. I think in the last couple of years, especially with the whole George Floyd movement, there has been a bigger sense of unity in terms of course, the African American community. But I think because of the amount of support that was there during that movement, that we are a lot closer than we are further apart. So I think if we just kind of keep that momentum going as far and in terms of unity goes, I think that we could see a bigger change in both of those communities supporting each other and backing each other up instead of the big divide between the two, as they have tried to make it seem that there is. But I think to answer your question that we're a lot closer, but of course there's always still room for improvement.
Absolutely. Still a lot of work to do. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break here and we'll come back and wrap up this conversation when we're talking about the divide between the African American and Asian community. We'll be back with more Factor Uncensored in just a moment. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Factor Uncensored. We are talking about the divide between the Asian and Black community. Is it real? A recent report on a major network indicated that Blacks have been out attacking Asians. Joining us now is our panel as we continue to discuss this issue. Candy, when you heard Willie D and Mr. Lee and Maggie all say that the African American community has been supporting the Asian community for quite some time, but in some instances there hasn't been that reciprocity, giving and taking, also supporting us. Your thoughts on that and what we need to do to fix this divide? Obviously there is one, but not as bad as indicated in that report, where there's just a problem around the country where Blacks are attacking Asians.
I think it's important for the Asian community to educate our own people, because a lot of times, you know, there's restaurants out there that African American owned. A lot of Asians in their communities they do not know about. So it's not like they won't go. Actually, some of the foods are a little bit similar in so many ways from the Asian food and a lot of the African American foods. If we all got together, we can find out that we have a lot of things in common. And just try not to be afraid of each other. Just like, you know, we can't blame one person's opinion and make it a stereotype. And that's what bothers me, is that interview that Willie D did, the video. I mean, when I hear that, that hurts me too, to hear that, you know, he's mentioning Black people. For me, I feel like it's just violence as a whole is wrong. It just doesn't matter what race it comes from. So that's my opinion on it. I just feel like we need to educate all our own communities and embrace each other and accept the differences. And I mean, we were all the same, it'd be really boring. So I love just going to different things. I love culture. I love visiting other countries. And a lot of these opinions are people that are not very well traveled. So all they know is what they're brought up on, what they're influenced by in their small circle. And they have their opinions, but that's all they know. So we just really have to show more videos, show more if they can't get out and travel. Because well-traveled people, just like Jasmine says, she's been over there, she sees a lot more and her mind is a lot more open. Yeah. She dating, you know, an Asian American man before. And for me, I'm married to a Caribbean man. So my 3-year-old's, you know, biracial, and I worry about people treating her a certain way. But for me, I have different type of dolls. I have a African American doll and I have an Asian doll. So I kind of try to teach her young, because I'm afraid of the older people, or their minds are they're stuck in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think it's just the next generation and our children, we need to make sure that they have more open-minded and, show them different things, the excitement of all races. So that's kind of, I believe strongly about that. And I've kind of carried myself that way. Even my circle of friends is just all kinds of walks.
Lots of diversity. In the last minute we have left, what do we need to resolve this issue? Keep it to a minute, under a minute.
I think it's quite simple. It's like my mama taught me when I was growing up.
And we got 30 seconds, Willie D, before we lose our feed.
Treat people how you want to be treated. It's simple. It's just that simple. Treat people how you want to be treated. And I think most people like to be treated well. Most people want to be treated with respect. Most people want to be treated, with dignity. Right. So you treat people like you want to be treated, and hey, man, we won't have any problems.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us for this in-depth conversation on the Factor Uncensored.